In the final weeks of the 2023-24 season, Erik ten Hag has shifted Manchester United's tactical approach to a 4-2-2 formation. This aims to gain more control over games while maintaining defensive stability. The 4-2-2 setup features 2 strikers, 2 wide advanced playmakers, and of course a double pivot. This formation is highly flexible, allowing players to drop deep, overload central areas, and maintain the team's width when necessary. Now moving on to the team's tactics and the tactical vision, which will be set to wing play. Now this allows for a lot of adaptability throughout the various different structures of the side, but also it will allow for a lot of combination play and passing sequences to occur in the wider zones, which we have seen currently in the Manchester United side. These tactics aim to create overloads in the wider regions of the pitch, whilst also maintaining a solid compact midfield area with many passing options centrally. Now as for the defense and the defensive style, it will be set to pressure on heavy touch. This ensures a solid shape that is very hard to try and break down, whilst also posing a pressing threat. When the opposition do make a mistake, the forward line, along with the advanced wide playmakers and of course the double pivots, will be there to try and capitalize on that mistake and look to transform it into a counter-attacking situation. Taking a look at the team's width, it will be set to 40, creating a slightly narrow structure on the defensive end. Whilst not exactly vacating the wider regions of the field, you will still have ample coverage in those wider zones to prevent the crosses and the cutbacks and any offensive creativity. As for the team's defensive depth, it will be set to 70, which will help Manchester United maintain a high line. This will help support the counter press that this United side will look to implement in the various different games, whilst also looking to reduce the space between the lines. Now taking a look at the offense and the build-up play, which will be set to balance. Now this can allow the Manchester United side to switch between a very direct, fast, pacey build-up play or the slow, methodical build-up play from back to front. With the offensive build-up play set to balance, this will encourage the centre-backs as well as the double pivots to drop and show for the ball and look to try and control the build-up play in the first phase. Now progressing on to the chance creation, and that will be set to forward runs. Now this will encourage the 2 forwards as well as the 4 midfielders to push into the advanced areas and create offensive overloads. The team's offensive width will be set to 17. Now this will provide ample space for your 2 strikers to flourish in, as well as provide a lot of fluidity in the midfield zones with the amount of space created in the wider regions for that midfield to interchange positions and create good passing sequences. The players in the box will be set to 6, committing at least 3 attackers in the box at all times, waiting for the crosses and the cutbacks. This will also help maintain a lot of control of the game because you will have a few players situated on the edge of the area looking to rotate and maintain possession. And then finally, the corners and the free kicks, as always, will be set to 4. Now taking a look at the individual player instructions, starting off at the back with Andre Onana, who will be set to come for crosses, being very aerially dominant at times this season, although that has led to a few mistakes, but nonetheless, you want to be able to come for crosses and be very aggressive and deal with those aerial threats, whilst also being a sweeper keeper, looking to have the team push nice and high up the field. He will look to try and monitor just in behind your back line, whilst also being very important in the first phase build-up, as well as spraying those balls further forward into the forward line or even into the wider channels. As for your 2 centre-backs in Maguire and Martinez, now Martinez is set to be a bit more of the aggressor. He'll be set to step up, looking to collect the ball from Onana and play those line-breaking balls further forward, or even looking to switch the play at times. Now Maguire will have a similar role in terms of collecting the ball from Onana, playing those balls into the wider channels. He is very good at switching the play, playing those line-breaking passes into the midfield, but he is set to conservative interceptions. And now what this will do is it will allow him to be the effective cover centre-back. So when Martinez steps up, you have the likes of a Harry Maguire or even a Rafael Varane to step in and make sure he's covering that vacated space from the other centre-back. Now taking a look at the 2 fullbacks, both Dalot as well as Shaw will have the same role and instructions going forward. Both will be told to join the attack. You want your fullbacks very involved, higher up the field, combining very effectively in those wider areas with the advanced wide playmakers. At the same time, the run type will be set to mix, allowing them to invert into the midfield, create those underlapping runs or even the overlap for the advanced wide playmakers. And then, of course, the final thing will be step up. Now, you want them being nice and high and wide, getting nice and close to the opposition wide players, preventing any time or space that they might have on the ball to create offensive movements in those wider zones. As you'll see here for the role of Luke Shaw, he has got the same instructions as well. Now moving on to your double pivot of Kobe Mainoo as well as Casemiro, and both will be very involved in all phases of the field, the offensive end, the defensive end, maintaining control of that midfield zone. So They'll both be set to cut passing lanes. You want them having that nice zonal approach, looking to try and break up and stifle as much play in those central areas as possible. The attacking support will be set to balance, allowing them to effectively be very good box-to-box players. Normal interceptions, you don't want them being too aggressive and stepping out and creating holes in the midfield area, whilst also both will be set to being deep-lying playmakers. Like I said, the success of this system with that slower, more methodical build-up play, you want your centre-backs as well as the double pivots to be able to drop and show for the ball, pop up in the spaces, collect it, and look to progress it further forward. So that is why both of them will be set to being the deep-lying playmaker. And then on the defensive end, you don't really want them, overly drifting too far wide and creating more space to more or less exploit for the opposition, but they'll be set to cover the central areas, looking to try and shield that backline area as best as possible. Disclaimer though, if you need to, if the fullback is out of position, you can manually look to try and draw your more central defensive midfielder into those wider zones to try and cover if required. Now moving on to the role for Amad Diallo, who will have a very important role creating central overloads, being very involved in the passing sequences, combining very nicely and efficiently with the midfielders and of course the attackers in and around him. And he will have a very free roaming role, allowing him to drift all over the place, creating overloads in the wider zones as well as more centrally at times. In order to replicate his role very effectively, he will be set to come back on defense, looking to always support the fullback in those wider regions when out of possession of the ball. At the same time, the supports on crosses will be set to stay on the edge of the box. Quite often we see Amad create a lot of offensive movements on the edge of the area before working his way in, and you more or less want to replicate that with the stay on the edge of the box role. Of course, he will be allowed to drift all over the place, more centrally at times, and the free roaming role allows him to do this combined very efficiently and effectively with players all the way around him, whether it's in the central zones, of course the midfield, or even out wide, combining with the advancing fullback. At the same time, you want him to be very aggressive, closing down the space, making sure that the passing lanes are clogged, looking to try and have a very good engine and work rates to him. Now onto the opposite flank, of course, Alejandro Garnacho is a bit more of a direct attacking threat down the left-hand side. So his defensive support will be set to having a basic support, sometimes allowing him to drop a bit deeper, support the fullback when needed. Other times he can choose to hang further up the field. At the same time, you want him positioning himself more centrally in the attacking zones, looking to try and land on the end of the crosses, the cutbacks, and just putting himself in the best goal-scoring opportunities as he possibly can. As for the positioning freedom, however, it will be set to drift wide. In this formation, we've seen the likes of Garnacho hugging the left-hand side a bit more, looking to operate in that wide left space, making sure that he is vacating enough space for the midfield and, of course, the two strikers to have in those more central areas. And then, of course, finally, just like with the right-hand side, Garnacho will be instructed to have aggressive interceptions, again, looking to try and prevent any play out from the back, closing the passing lanes, closing the ankles, forcing the opposition into those longer balls further forward. Now, moving on to your two strikers, starting off with Bruno Fernandes, who will be set to drift wide. Now, this will help him create overloads in those wider zones, whilst also allowing him to drift all over the back line. At the same time, you want him playing as a false nine, allowing him to drop a bit deeper, combining with the midfield, creating successful midfield overloads, whilst also maintaining aggressive interceptions. You want him closing down the opposition, forcing those errors, forcing those mistakes, and also just forcing them to rush their first phase build-up play. And then, of course, you want him to be able to drop a bit deeper and help support the defensive areas. Onto the role of Rasmus Højlund, who does have a very similar role with a few tweaks and variations to it. He will be set to drift wide. You want him operating in the channels, and this is more or less the change that we have seen for Højlund when he has been played. Against Newcastle, he came on and scored. He ran the channels very well. Against the likes of Brighton, came on and scored. Very similar role. He wasn't trying to, wrestle with the opposition centre-backs. He was more so looking to use his pace, get in behind, and exploit the opposition. So more or less, that is exactly what you're aiming to do with Højlund in this role. The interceptions will also be set to aggressive, so you have a very good aggressive front pairing that will look to aggressively close down the opposition, prevent those, easy passes into the midfield, and just force them into those longer balls. And then, of course, the final thing will be the defensive support will be set to basic. Now, if you do go ahead and make a few rotations to the side, the likes of McTominay was played in the more advanced role, but his instructions do slightly change compared to the likes of Bruno Fernandes. He'll be set to having a balanced width while still playing as a false nine. You still want McTominay dropping into the midfield, again, successfully creating those midfield overloads. He does have a very good work rate on him, so you want him to be able to aggressively close down the opposition and also be able to come back on defense. As for the role of Rashford, now he can either be deployed up front in the Rasmus Højlund role, having the ability to drift wide, get in behind, and have aggressive interceptions, whilst also having a basic defensive support, or very much like Antony, he can be deployed in the Alejandro Garnacho role down at the left-hand side. Now, for Antony, he can be played on the left or the right. We have seen both on full display over the last few weeks, but his instructions again will be very similar to what Garnacho has displayed. So a basic defensive support. Yes, Anthony is a bit more work rate to him, but a basic defensive support. The ability to get into the box, drift wide, creating that nice approach to hugging the touchline, and also, of course, having aggressive interceptions. As for the role of Mason Mount, it will be identical to what the likes of Amad Diallo does create. So that will be come back on defense, stay on the edge of the box, free roam, and of course, aggressive interceptions. And then finally, we've got the role of Amrabat, who doesn't really change that much from Casemiro, but we have seen when Amrabat has played over Casemiro in that double pivot role, Casemiro does get forward a bit more, and Amrabat does tend to stay back and look to try and patrol just in front of that backline, allowing the likes of Kobe Mainoo to more or less flourish on the offensive end. So he will be set to stay back while attacking. Now, taking a look at the 3-3-2 system, this is where Casemiro drops between the two centre-backs, freeing up the attacking roles for the two fullbacks to enter the midfield and be very involved in the central zones. Now, taking a look at the tactics, and not much has changed apart from the depth. Now, this enhances the control over the game as well as the aggressive pressing style. But as you'll see here, the build-up play on the offense and the width and all that good stuff is still set to the same. Now, taking a look at the individual player instructions, and of course, Casemiro has had a role change. So he will be set to join the attack and, of course, step up. You want him to be very involved on the defensive end, show that aggression, but also collect the ball and look to drive it further forward. Be very involved in the midfield play, even though he is situated in the backline area. Now, taking a look at the midfield, of course, Dalot and Shaw, inverted fullbacks, very much involved in the central play. They will also have the same roles and instructions. Cut passing lanes, having a balanced attacking support whilst also maintaining normal interceptions. You want them to both be able to drop a bit deeper, show for the ball, collect it very efficiently and effectively, and look to progress it further forward, maintaining a lot of control in the first phase of the build-up. At the same time, because they are more naturally fullbacks, you want them to be able to, drift into those wide areas and try and cover as much as possible. So therefore, they'll be both instructed to cover the wings. As you'll see here for the likes of Luke Shaw, he's got the same instructions as well. Now, taking a look at the role for Kobe Mainoo, who will have a lot more offensive freedom to exploit and express himself with, but the attacking support will be set to balance, still allowing him to drop back when required if needed, but allowing him effectively to be very advanced in the attacking play. The support on crosses will be set to stay on the edge of the box, still looking to rotate the play on the edge of the area and make sure things are ticking over quite well in the midfield zones. The interceptions will be set to normal, and then, of course, cover the center and have free roam. Now, taking a look at the other change that we have made, and that is the role of Rasmus Højlund. He will not be consistently looking to break him behind all the time. He can effectively do this, but you also want him to be able to be a bit more of a target man, a bit more physical, backing into the opposition, linking up the play very effectively, whilst also sometimes being able to drop a bit deeper, create those midfield overloads, and be able to link the play very effectively from the midfield to the attack. Now, taking a look at the 3-3-2 system, which this setup involves a fullback joining the defensive back line. This will add a lot more recovery pace to your defensive area. As for the tactical instructions, nothing will really change apart from the depth, which will be set to 80, just like with before, but otherwise, everything will remain the same. Of course, for the player instructions going forward, Dalot will have a slightly different role. He will be set to overlap, still providing a lot of offensive threats down those wider regions if required, and he will still also be set to step up. Further forward now, onto the role of Casemiro, who will be set to cut pass lanes, maintain a balanced attacking support, have normal interceptions, be the deep line playmaker, but we do see that he'll be set to cover the central zones, looking to try and shield that backline area as much as possible. This is due to the fact that Kobe Mainoo will have, again, a very similar role to what he had before, but he will be told to cover the wing, look to try and drift into those wider right zones and pick up the runners and the overloads and make sure that defensively he is covering that right back spot. And there you go, guys. That is how I would implement and replicate Erik ten Hag's new 4-2-2 system along with the variations to it into FC24. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you don't mind, please smash that like button down below, subscribe, comment down below. Do you like the system? How does it rank and rate for you guys? Personally, for me, out of 10, I would give this a solid 9. I think offensively, the fluidity, the overloads, the control, everything works so well. The defensive outlet is also there, and this does include the variations as well. But again, the control is the biggest thing for me. I love the way that we can attack freely, fluidly, while still maintaining a lot of central overloads, breaking up a lot of the offensive play that the opposition looks to try and generate for themselves, and all that good stuff. But you will be seeing that in the gameplay segment where we look to discuss how you should look to try and set out the different various tactics the way you should maybe go ahead and try and use them, and the way that you can implement it very effectively into your game FC24. So let's hop on straight into the gameplay segments. Okay, people, so the gameplay segment where we will be discussing Ten Hag's new 4-2-2 system, and of course, up against the Arsenal. Now, this was more or less where Ten Hag initially started using it consistently against Arsenal, where we ended up losing. Man United ended up losing 1-0, thanks to a slight mistake from the right centre-back in Casemiro. But, you know what? It's fine. It's okay. We move on. We move on from there. But yes, so what we will be doing is, just talking about ways and situations where you should use the various different variations. And so far, so good. A lot of good control centrally. Ahmad looking to drift and then play it off to Dalot, who has made that very good overlapping run. It's Rasmus Højlund down the channel. Good ball. Solid ball. Great ball into Luke Shaw, who I know did not play. But, oh my goodness me! He contributed right here, right now. A great whipping across the face of goal to the back stick for the very good drifting Bruno Fernandes, who puts it in to the back of the net. I do think, unpopular opinion, but if we had a few, players that weren't injured playing against Arsenal, I think we may have been able to beat them, But anyways, it's not here, not there. I will also say this. This system works very, very well, and we will be seeing the variations and all that good stuff. But of course, having, 2 strikers up front, it does take a lot out of the opposition's defense with, the advanced runs, the ability to drift and splits, and it works so well. And you will have a lot of contributions from your fullbacks in those wider zones, especially with, at times, the 2 advanced playmakers, of course, in Garnacho and Diallo, having a bit more of a central approach. So yeah, Arsenal haven't really touched the ball that much. We won it back. We've been pressing very well. And yeah, it's been all of us. The entirety of, the first 10 or so minutes. And this is Diallo tracking back. Hold that, Trossard. Hold that, mates. Maguire plays a great ball into Dion running. Casemiro. Good combination play, good build-up play. Good ball over the top from Mainu into Alejandro Garnacho, who's looking to stretch the play down this left-hand flank. I was looking for the good combination play between him and the overlapping Luke Shaw. Now, what I will say is we are going to go immediately into the back 3 system with Diego Dalot over the likes of Casemiro, only because Casemiro, Maguire, and Martinez do not have the adequate recovery pace in order to deal with this Arsenal front line. Essentially, you've got the likes of Trossard. They could bring Martinelli on off the bench. They have, of course, Bukayo Saka. Gabriel Jesus could come off the bench. They've got Kai Havertz. So you do want a bit more recovery pace, and that's exactly what a Dalot or a Luke Shaw could go ahead and do for the side. So that's why I've opted to go with that one over, the Casemiro back 3. Although I will say the Casemiro back 3, in terms of like the midfield play, it's a lot more solid because you have, of course, Diego Dalot. You've got Luke Shaw in the midfield zones. So you have a bit more, I don't want to say control, but it feels a lot more fluid in a way because you have, some decent pace in that midfield zone, some good on-the-ball players. Great ball in, and it's a great header from what am I doing? What am I doing there? It was a good header from Diego Dalot. Well won there from Harry. Good ball from Højlund up to the drifting wide Bruno Fernandes. He's looking to pass it straight back into Højlund. Højlund's looking for the ball over the top into Diallo, who plays the cross, and Mainu hits the ball straight at David Raya. Oh my goodness me. That's some quick transition play right there, and that is due to the fact that forward runs is on. So we do see the midfield. They get very involved, and of course Mainu in this more advanced attacking role allowed the freedom to get forward, and Martinez cuts out the offensive movement right there, plays a great ball into the midfield zone and back into the backline area. Not too bad, not too shabby. We see Dalot advance the ball up. Diallo, there we go, beautiful stuff. And Casemiro running with the ball. Not the best pass that time. Back into Casemiro, who is very much in control here, but it's fallen to Alejandro Garnacho, who's missed the entire net. Wow, we have generated a lot of shot opportunities here. The fluidity, the movement, they can't keep up with the fact that they've got Bruno pulling him out wide. They've got Højlund drifting to those wider channels every now and then. the pace that this side do possess is very, very scary. And of course, if you had to add Rashford and, a bit more physicality up front with McTominay, maybe even Anthony, I know people might laugh and say, haha, he's rubbish. But I'm telling you, it works so, so well. Again, some really good ball recovery there from Dalot. Nicely done. Nicely done. Little 1-2 pass. And it's the captain. It had to be the captain, Bruno freaking Fernandes, mates. 2-0. 2-0. Just before the break, some really good ball recovery. Nicely won by Dalot back into Garnacho. Played a nice pass into Bruno, who laid it off to Mainu, who laid it back into Bruno, into the space. And oh my goodness me, it was looking very tasty. Very tasty. Honestly, the Arsenal backline, they're two very strong physical centre-backs that are more inclined to having a striker try and, physically back into them, and where they can deal with that. But if you have strikers who drop a bit deep, who drop off of them, they don't know if they should stick or twist, and it does create a whole lot of havoc in the backline area. So that is exactly what we're seeing right here, right then. And that will be the break, as you saw Luke Shaw trying to compete and contest and press for the ball. But so far, very happy with how the team has displayed the tactics. Maybe we could do a bit more of a better job in terms of maintaining and rotating the ball, which we will focus on in the second half. But so far, so good. Okay, so some of the stats at the break. We've maintained the ball for 61% of that first half, which has been very, very good, considering Arsenal are a very good on-the-ball dominant side themselves. We've absolutely pumped them full. Lovely, lovely jubbly. Okay, shots 4 to their 1. Expected goals 2.2. We have scored 2 compared to their 0.2. We've put in more passes than them. We've doubled the tackles, +1. We've won more tackles. They've got more interceptions. That's fine. We have a better dribble success rate, a better pass accuracy, as well as, okay, they've got the better shot accuracy, but they've taken 1 shot compared to our 4, which is not bad at all. Okay, now looking at the possession, a lot of the possession for us has been maintained in that, deep block, you could say, of the 2 centre-backs, and of course, the double pivot of Mainu, Casemiro, and Martinez and Maguire. And of course, when that shifted, there was still a little bit of control in those, deeper central areas. For them, more so, we need to try and break up and, stifle their midfield build-up. They have had a lot of success down that, or in those more central zones. So we need to try and break that up. But so far, a lot of their attack has been stemmed down at the right-hand side, of course, Bukayo Saka. So with Luke Shaw there, of course, Martinez as well, they need to try and cover that area a bit better, but they have done a very good job. So it's really nitpicking at some very useless things right there and then. And on to the last segment to talk about at the halftime break. A lot of passes being interchanged between 18, 37, and 5, which is quite nice, quite good. I want to see Diego Dalot firing a lot more balls down at the wide right channel into the likes of Diallo, who does need to be a bit more involved in the central zones, be a bit more involved in the passing sequences. So we need to get him, into the game. But so far, so good. Garnacho obviously having a very good shot. He was left, in that wide left vacated space with the amount of overloads created in the wide right space. So, it has worked out quite well. A lot of Arsenal's passes have come from 20 into 29 and number 19, who is playing as a false 9. Very interesting scenes. Very, very interesting. It does beg the question, why does Arteta not bring on a Martinelli to play down that left channel? But anyways, it's not my business. The tactics so far are working so well. Okay, we're kicking things off in the second half. 61% possession, considering we didn't really start off with the ball in that first half. Not too bad. But what we will do is we are going to revert back into the balanced approach just to start off the second half. We don't want to be left high and dry and exposed on the defensive end. We just want to maintain a solid back four shape and structure for the time being. A good ball down the byline, flicked on to the likes of a Bruno Fernandes, who has shown for the ball quite nicely. He's returned the favor back into Alejandro Garnacho, who's whipped in a great cross, and it's a great header off the post by Rasmus Højlund. Not too bad, not too shabby right there. Oh my... We almost caught out Benjamin White. We almost caught him out there. Look at the successful, aggressive pressing nature and style. They've gone along with it. They've turned the ball over effectively. And that's exactly what you want to see. That is exactly what... Good ball into Bruno, into Garnacho, and Garnacho forces the save out of David Raya. We're still going to press them. We're still pressing them. And we have come into the second half firing on all cylinders right then and there. It's a pity we couldn't get the goal, though. It's a great pass across the face of goal from Garnacho into Rasmus. But it's fine. It's okay. It's all right. We move. We go again. Very solid defensive awareness from Dalot. into Casemiro, who lays it off into the young Kobe Mainu. Plays it back into Casemiro, who loses the ball in a very dangerous area. Harry Maguire looking to... Oh no. Good block. Great block. That's some good defensive awareness and coverage right there. And again, stepping out into the midfield zone, playing that pass forward. And I don't know what I was doing there, but it wasn't successful. And we go again. We haven't really been able to shift into our more offensive structure because we've been very much delayed by what Arsenal have been able to do. But we're going to do that right here and right now. Good ball into Mr. Maguire. Plays it further forward. I don't know why, but that was just very delayed, that passing sequence. Maguire looking to step up and do a bit better. But there we go. We've defensively, we're tucking in. We're doing our job here. Arsenal are trying to throw the kitchen sink at us. And we haven't really been able to display much offensive fluidity and movement, but we're displaying the full range of the tactics right here. The defensive end is also very important. Very, very important. It's a bad pass from Lucas. Looking to defend the wider zone. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. And that's exactly what you want, especially in this system. You want the likes of Luke Shaw, Kobe Mainu more so drifting to the right-hand side, you know, trying to overload on the defensive end down the flanks and down the channels. Luke Shaw picking up the likes of Martin Odegaard, who has drifted into a very, very dangerous area. Greatness at its finest. That's what you want to see. Lovely. Bruno's running with it. Passes it into Højlund. Højlund, he sees the pass of the on-running, rushing Amad Diallo, who pumps it. Oh my goodness me. It wasn't meant to. So close, yet so far. 10 minutes or so to go in this one. Martinelli has come onto the field. We've put in a great ball into Casemiro. Well done, mate. It's 3-0. Battered Arsenal. Of course, in the second half, I will say they did improve their offensive fluidity, but our defense held up tenfold. We were able to stifle and break up the play and make sure that we were neutralizing a lot of their offensive threats, and we've been able to turn it into a bit more of a basketball match in the second half, which again has not been far-fetched of how United and Ten Hag have played this season, especially with this formation, but we are also still looking to try and maintain and overload and control the phases of play, which we have done overall-wise through the entirety of this game. But 3-0 to the good, to the Red Devils. You love to see it. And honestly, things are looking quite tasty for us. Bang, bang, and bang. Look at that. Look at that. Play through the press. Maguire. Oh, I was looking for the ball into Bruno there. I don't know why he tried to pass it into the likes of Kobe Mainu. But it's fine. It's all right. It's a shot, and it's a great save from Andrea Onana. They've put it back, and of course, Onana can't make the save. And the likes of Ricky Martinelli has gone ahead and put Arsenal down by only 2 goals, but he's celebrating like a madman. You love to see it. Ah, love it. Anyways, we go again. We go again. We'll look for goal number 4 here. Down the byline. I don't know why, but Bruno just did not make the run there. Okay, that's fine. No, you do you, Bru. Well done. Stepping into the midfield quite nicely. Plays the ball further forward into Bruno Fernandes, who's looking for the ball out wide between the lines into Amad Diallo. Amad Diallo squares it back into Bruno. Oh, yeah, love it. Yeah, goddamn love it. Bit of homage to Paul Pogba and his former celebrations. Anyways, we go again. It's 4-1. We've absolutely battered this lot. Some great passing sequences right here. Diallo down at the right flank, exposing the likes of Arsenal with a quick cut back into the on-running Bruno Fernandes. And honestly, very, very good goal. Anyways, and that should be really the end of the game and all that good stuff. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and do all that good stuff down below. Comments, please. That would be great. But until the next time, until the next one, Bruno got a goddamn hat-trick. You got to smash the like button just for that. But until then, I hope you guys have a damn great day, and I'm out of here.